Hey there, fellow tamers and Digidestined. It's Mike, aka Sanaku from Overground, and welcome to episode 4 of the 1.5 Rainbow series. If you're unfamiliar with this, or this is your first time on the channel, the Rainbow series is a group of videos where we build one deck of every color every time a new set releases. So we take cards from the new set, combine it with our current existing card pool. We kind of usually take off of what we ended up pulling out of the set as well as kind of a first initial draft. These could be our favorite Digimon, our favorite archetypes, our favorite strategies, decks that we've been wanting to build for a while, decks that we're kind of drawn to just based on art and, mechanics as a whole. And today we're going to be covering the color purple. And I know there's a little bit of yellow in the corner here, but, don't mind the cats behind the curtain here. This is primarily a purple deck at its core, and so it's going to be included in that kind of section of the Rainbow series for 1.5. So if you haven't checked them out already, we have filmed the first 3 episodes as well. Episode 1 is going to be a red Omni, episode 2 has been the yellow Shine Greymon, episode 3 was the blue All Force Vidramon deck, and now we are on 4, which is the color purple. So we're going to get into a bit of discussion about this deck as you see it, because it plays very interestingly compared to purple decks of the past, and it has a very cyclical nature to it to achieve its primary win condition. And I'll kind of explain how everything works as we go through the list itself. So let's start with the eggs like we always do. And we're going to start with 4 Demi-Meramon. Now Demi-Meramon is one of the best new cards to come for purple, just in general. Every purple deck is probably going to be, not probably, they are going to be playing it. There's Demi-Meramon, if you're unfamiliar, gives every thing that evolves on top of it the inheritable of on deletion, trigger draw 1, and discard 1. And this is similar to something that we've seen with like this Gabumon, for example, which is the draw 2, discard 1. And it's just more filtering from your deck, but allows you to control the cards that you send to the discard pile. Previous purple decks of the past played, the Impmon engine and stuff like that, and the Pagumon engine to just kind of send cards from the top of the deck to the graveyard so you can achieve big value plays later on through several turns through like revival cards like Piedmon and Night Raid and everything like that. And in this version of the deck, we're still doing something similar. However, we play more cards now that give us more controlled access from putting those cards into the trash as opposed to more random outcomes. We still play some of the random outcomes because we have to, but the addition of more cards that give us controlled discarding to the trash makes this strategy a lot more viable and a lot more consistent. So that is Demi-Meramon. We're going to move on to Pagumon. Again, just the 5th egg, just to have in terms of grind games. Pagumon serves the same purpose that he did before. He just allows us to accelerate our trash and accelerate cards into the trash that could be used for further combo potential later on. Then I'm going to go on to our rookies, and this is a bit strange because it's a very different rookie lineup than what you'd expect to see in a purple deck. Most purple decks, the general strategy is you're going to be playing about like 14 to 16 rookies to kind of facilitate that early rush style because you get a lot of advantage on your rookies, and then you kind of bring them back with Night Raid, and just all your other cards in the deck are kind of more toolboxy ways to kind of end games in different but albeit similar ways. But in this deck, we're using our rookies just to kind of accelerate our plays as well and to accelerate our consistency. So we're going to be playing 4 Tapirmon for that purpose. On deletion, we get to draw 1. 4 Gabumon as well for that purpose, which, as we just alluded to with the Demi-Meramon, you get to draw 2, discard 1. This is a bit of a strange one. So we're playing 3 Impmon and then 1 Demi-Devimon, the promo one. Unfortunately, I only own 1 of this Demi-Devimon at the moment. If I did have 4 copies, I would probably be playing a full 4. But in this case, we're kind of playing Impmon to complement this. Again, there is some random elements in terms of what we're going to be discarding to the trash. However, I do like this Demi-Devimon instead because we can discard 2 on play as opposed to waiting for the Impmon to be deleted. The Impmon, we either have to crash it into an opponent's security, which at the end of the day really isn't that bad. We have to get it destroyed by our Chimeramon, which again, it really isn't that bad, or we have to get our opponent to attack it as well. Whereas the Demi-Devimon is just kind of a guaranteed slap. You drop it down, you immediately get that value, and you can potentially continue your combos on the same turn as opposed to kind of waiting for things to kind of go through the motions depending on when or where your Impmon gets destroyed. However, I'm going to test it like this for now. I might end up liking the Impmons a little bit more, and I might keep the Impmons. The only argument for keeping the Impmons in is that by having Impmon in the deck, I feel like I need to play Beelzemon, and I just don't have the space for that right now. But again, everything here is kind of a first draft. Everything here is still in its testing phases, and I highly recommend everyone that is interested in trying this deck out to, fool around with it, play with it, and see if there's anything that you like or you might change as well, because I'm always interested in learning how the community is interacting with our content. So we're going to move on to the last 2 rookies of the deck. So there are still 14 rookies for all intents and purposes, but only 12 of them are actually purple. And the last 2 are going to be Salamon. And this is the Salamon from 1.5, where it's if you have 3 or 4 security cards on deletion, you actually get to recover 1. Now, this Salamon, you're generally never actually going to be playing from your hand. This ties into the entire controlled mill aspect of the deck. So if I draw into a Salamon, or if I have a Salamon in my hand, I'm going to be using cards like Gabumon, like Demi-Meramon, like Lady Devimon, which we'll get to actually discard that Salamon into the trash and have it in the trash ready for when I want to revive it with Mastemon, which we'll talk about very soon. Furthermore, if I send it to the trash pile with our Demi-Devimons or our Impmons, I'm not complaining because that's exactly where I want it to be. And then we're going to jump into the champions real quick. So I'm including the Gatomon here just in terms of the yellow package as a whole. So this Gatomon is on play. If you have a purple Digimon, you get to minus 4,000 DP to one of your opponent's Digimon. And during your turn, if another one of your Digimon is deleted, you can give this Gatomon plus 3,000. So she's a potential 6k attacker for a level 4 as a champion, which isn't very high, but it's her on-play effect that really shines. You can play her from your hand while you do have another purple in play to potentially snipe one of your opponent's level 3 or 4 Digimon. And furthermore, again, she's another combo piece that kind of goes hand in hand with Mastemon when we finally get to talking about her as well. The rest of the champion lineup is pretty standard for what you'd see in purple. There's going to be 4 Vilemon, 4 Devimon. We need blockers in the deck to survive. We need Devimon because retaliation is actually a very important part of this strategy, and Wizardmon as well. So Wizardmon, there's arguments to be playing Saberdramon because Saberdramon has the inheritable of retaliation. However, since we're playing yellow cards in this deck, and we have ways of reviving and putting those yellow cards into play quite often, I feel like Wizardmon actually has a better place in this deck because his retaliation is actually going to be live more often. So we have 6 base retaliators without necessarily having to evolve over top of them to gain that skill. The ultimates, we play 3 Chimeramon. Chimeramon are just really good overall, very important staple in purple. On play, we get to delete one of our Digimon to destroy one of our opponent's level 5 or lowers. We get to interrupt their stacks. We get to disrupt their plays. We get to trigger a lot of our on-deletion effects. Overall, great card. We're complementing that finally with 3 Skull Meramon and 2 Lady Devimon. The reason for the 3 Skull Meramon is because Mastemon is our main win condition, and we want to have the ability to Digivolve on top of her as often as possible. And Skull Meramon being a new addition from 1.5, he's only a 5 cost to hard drop, and he's a 2 cost to Digivolve. So even if we play Skull Meramon early on, or if we need to spend a turn just to drop Skull Meramon to set up a Mastemon, that saves us all the trouble of Digivolving all the way up the chain. And in purple, a lot of the times you don't actually want to Digivolve over your purple Digimon because your purple champions rather, because a lot of your purple champions have a lot of value just being in the way they are already. So we're not necessarily going to be Digivolving in this deck up to Ultimate. We're generally just going to be playing them to set up the mega plays at a later point. And that's why this 5 cost is super, super, super important. And the 2 Lady Devimon, again, we're not planning on Digivolving very often, but if we need to, this is a good option to choose because this gives us the ability to draw 2 and discard 2. Again, give us that extra filtering, that extra layer of consistency, and that extra ability to put the cards we need to put in our trash. Lady Devimon also has the really cool inheritable of once per turn, if we play an option card, we get to delete one of our opponent's level 3 Digimon. So, multiple suite of options that we'll get to very soon, and that just gives us an extra layer of value in terms of how we're going to be playing our options as well. It doesn't come up very often, and that's why I'm only reduced her to 2 copies. So now let's talk about Mastemon. So she is the heart and soul of the deck. She is what this entire strategy is kind of based around, and she's kind of going to be your primary win condition of the deck. So she can evolve for 4 on top of a purple or a yellow Digimon. Not playing any yellow ultimates, unfortunately, but we are playing for several purple ultimates that we can evolve over Mastemon. And what Mastemon reads is that when you Digivolve her, you get to trash the top card of both players' securities, and then you can revive a level 4 or less purple or yellow Digimon from your trash. So now you can kind of see where everything kind of comes together. Because we can revive any one of our champions down here, we can revive any one of our rookies, and we can also revive any one of these yellow cards as well, which all give us value in different ways, in different capacities. And it's a little bit cheaper than Piedmon. So while Piedmon brings us 2 level 4 or lowers for the cost of 12, Mastemon gives us 1 for the cost of 4. So a third of the cost and half the effect. Now Piedmon is very powerful in the sense that it gives us an additional body as well with retaliation. But I found that in this format, as we go into 1.5, giving your opponent 9 or 10 memory is very, very, very detrimental because there's so much more that so many more decks can actually do with 10 memory. So I wanted to build a deck that kind of still encompasses that value revival aspect without actually sacrificing that much memory to give to. Let's talk about the trashing security effect real quick before we move on to the rest, because that's kind of where your primary win condition is going to be with Mastemon. You're not actually attempting to attack your opponent's security with this version of the deck. You're trying to limit their board state by using cards with retaliation and cards like Chimeramon to just completely keep them off from attacking you. And instead, you're using Mastemon over and over and over again to just keep burning those top cards of your opponent's security. and then taking a big game shot at the end when they only have maybe 2 or 3 left. But you're not actively going into attacking them very, very often. But if they do end up attacking you early game, because this does take a little bit to set up, that's why these Salamons are so important, because we can trash a security with Mastemon, bring back the Salamon, and then if we're at 3 or less, this Salamon will actually let us recover one, which gives us another free security to burn for Mastemon later on in a different turn. And we play cards that constantly kind of loop this. So I'm going to jump to Necrophobia real quick, because then the last little bit of the deck, we're just going to kind of keep bouncing around. So Necrophobia reads, we can play 1 level 5 purple Digimon from our trash without paying its cost, but unfortunately no on-play effects are triggered. So we can play Necrophobia, bring back any level 5, and then we can evolve Mastemon on top of that level 5 to then bring back any one of these Digimon to give us, any sort of semblance of value or toolboxing, depending on the circumstance. And then if we have another ultimate that we can play, we can then evolve into Lilithmon to get back to Necrophobia, to then play the Necrophobia again to bring back level 5, to play Mastemon again, and we have the 3 mats here to recover any one of these combo pieces at any point in time to constantly keep that cycle and loop flowing. But on top of just the Salamon itself, there are so many cool combos that you can get with Mastemon. Mastemon can bring back this Gatomon to snipe one of your opponent's Digimon, because by bringing this into play, you already have a purple Digimon guaranteed to meet the requirements to trigger Gatomon. You can bring back a Vilemon right away as extra protection. You can bring back Devimon right away to threaten a retaliation turn on the next turn, sequence of plays. You can bring back a Wizardmon again to either threaten retaliation or to get that extra draw. And then you can bring back any one of these rookies or Wizardmon to play against a Chimeramon to trigger their effects to either draw or advance your game state, while also getting rid of your opponent's stacks. So there's kind of a lot of cool niche little interactions that you can do with Mastemon, because every single thing that she brings back either advances your game state or gives you an opportunity to slow down your opponents, which is very, very powerful. And to complement Mastemon, we're playing 2 Lilithmon. Yeah, this is just to bring back a bevy of options that we play, again, whose sole purpose is just to keep our opponent off their game plan. And these options are, we've got 3 Night Raid, we have 3 Trump Sword, 1 Heat Viper, and the aforementioned Necro. So yeah, and Lilithmon also has a really cool effect where if you play an option card, you get to gain 2 memory back. So that actually reduces the cost of all of these options by 2. And the majority of them, Trump Sword excluded, cost 5, which means if we have our mat in play, the guaranteed 3 memory that we get every turn, this will only put us to 0 and we get very powerful effects. And then Heat Viper is very strong because not only does it get rid of 2 of our opponent's stacks, depending on how they've built up their board, but we can also delete our own Salamon again to get that. And and then we talk about Necrophobia and kind of looping the ultimates as well. So this entire deck is just based around constantly burning out your opponent's security without giving your opponent an opportunity to trigger any of those very powerful effects. This way we dodge stuff like Gaia Force. We dodge stuff like Hammer Spark. We can dodge stuff like Flower Cannon. There are a lot of other powerful options, and there are a lot of very high DP Digimon in the format as well. We can dodge stuff like Omnimon, Alter S, any of the new 12k Digimon that have entered the fray, something like Blitz Greymon or Imperial Dramon, for example. All very, very big Digimon that would either crash with or destroy our Digimon. And because we're so interested in keeping our board presence as well to keep these combos flowing, by not actively attacking into our opponent's security, we're not giving our opponent the opportunity to actually set us back as well. So this is the first draft of the Mastemon control deck that I like to call it. Obviously, it's going to require a lot of testing, but I'm very happy with kind of the initial first bout that we've kind of come up with, and I'm very excited to see how far this deck can go or how I can adjust it in the future. So if you have any thoughts or suggestions on how to improve this deck, feel free to leave a comment below, and I will read it and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you like what we do here in Overground, please make sure to like the video and consider subscribing and help us reach our end of the month subscriber goal. Please make sure to check back for the next episode of the Rainbow series. We've got another fan favorite coming up as we cover the color green. So please look forward to that, and we'll see you guys in the next one.